environment for peaceful nominations of candidates for the 4th December election, and the media for covering events and informing the public about happenings leading to the elections. Reporting for the Fatu Network, I am Christian Conte.
Imagine owning a home or service plot, enjoying the sunrise and sunset from a beautiful garden, morning hugs and beautiful moments with your loved ones, the never-ending stories, beautiful memories that will last a lifetime, making and sharing great moments with family and friends. You can turn this into a reality. All you need is a tough home.
Thank you very much. News Review continues now with my guest, Nyang Njie. Nyang, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming. First off, let's begin with your announcement. Your announcement of endorsing UDP leader Ousainou Darboe. You said you watched the documentary that was published. That was what convinced you to support Mr. Darboe. Talk to us about that. Darboe has been here long enough, but this decision was a huge one, a massive one. Nyang the commentator, Nyang the activist, saying he's supporting Darboe because he watched a documentary.
Well, I intimately know who lawyer Ousainou Darboe is. For all to know, my first cousins are his kids. So that's nothing new. But having to watch the documentary, because of the age gap between me and him, I get to know much more about the person that I never knew. So after watching it, and like I said, it's a tactical decision that I have made. I'm not a card-bearing member of the UDP. I have never attended their meetings then and now, but I've decided that I have one goal and one objective. And that objective is to make sure the rule of President Adama Barrow comes to an end. For the very reason that the reason we opted to choose Adama Barrow in 2016, he has reneged on all those promises. Therefore, if I believe that Esambay Fall will take us to the promised land, I would have endorsed him. Likewise, if I believe that Halifa Sallah I would have endorsed him.
Yes.
Ablai Jammeh, the same. I came to the conclusion that this is the most logical thing for Nyang Njie. And Nyang Njie is an individual who happens to have rights. I could have stayed mute and silent, but that's not me. I just want my decision to be known to all because I don't owe it to anybody.
Are you an activist?
I am not an activist. I am an opinion leader who happens to have opinions on diverse things that happens in this country, and I speak my mind. And not only that, there are people that you consider, which I am not, there are people that you call political activists. They want to effect change by way of politics, and if they believe that they can go this route to get their end game, they will. But Nyang Njie is a highly opinionated individual who add his positions into the national discourse. If people see convergence in what I say, amen to that, but I speak for me.
What do you tell critics who say Nyang has always been a secret admirer of UDP? So this was no surprise to us really. Nyang has always been UDP. I've actually spoken to people who told me this.
Well, each to their own, and I will tell you why.
Yeah.
Nyang Njie is only responsible for Nyang Njie. And Nyang Njie owes no one an apology, explanation, let alone want to go secret on anything. I am a free-born Gambian who happens to have a guaranteed right of freedom of association, so why should I? And what is wrong to wanting to associate with something? Why should I make it a secret? And I think that's the folly of Gambians, because Gambians generally tend to be highly opportunistic and want to hide because sometimes it hurts when you associate. That's not Nyang Njie.
Because the reason I am asking you whether you are an activist or not, you have a lot of people who look at you in the activist eye And activists every now and then here are accused of hiding behind activism when these are in fact political elements, people who are opposition elements hiding behind activism. I have come across such claims.
Sad to say, but most people in this country, their sophistication and understanding of what an activist is so diluted. Is Nyang Njie an activist? I have never claimed to be one. Does Nyang Njie have an opinion of things happening in Gambia? Oh yes, he does. And you know why? I am a stakeholder in this country. So if you so choose to call me an activist, peace be unto you. But Nyang Njie is a highly opinionated Gambian that will continue to render his voice to the development of this country, come what may, and whoever wins or whoever loses. Because I am a stakeholder and a shareholder in this going concern of ours. So no one will keep Nyang Njie quiet. And at the same time, if you so choose to give me the nomenclature of an activist, that's up to you. But I know that I am an opinion shaper, an opinion leader, and I want to be influential based on the way I think. If you find convergence in what I do, I don't have a problem. But if you find divergence, that's even up to you. So I don't do things for people. I do things for my conscience, country, pride, and dignity.
I'm going to throw all of these things at you. Since you made this decision, and then you have the other claims that Nyang is also one inconsistent Gambian. When he was working at the OIC, when he was in government, he never criticized the Barrow government. And all of a sudden, when he was out, he became this fierce critic of a government that he once was in.
Thank God to social media. You see, here is the problem, and this is why it's so difficult dealing with Gambians, because social media leaves footprints.
Yes, of course.
So Nyang Njie will not want to speak for himself. I dare anyone who say that to go back to my timelines, pre-OIC and post-OIC, and see whether there is a difference. Nyang Njie has been consistent to his ideals, his conscience, and his convictions. Are my convictions sometimes in tangent with what the government is doing? Sometimes. Are my convictions sometimes at loggerheads with the government? More times than, rarely. So you know what? It's not how people perceive me. To thine own self be true. My conscience is my pillow, and that's what guides what I do. Not how mainstream society sees me or how some segment of society see me. It's not important to me. I manifest my destiny. I control my life. And thank God, I'm not on the payroll of anyone. And guess what? I'm not a stooge of anyone, and I'm not looking for favors from anyone. That's why Nyang Njie says what he wants to say, when he wants to say it, and I dare anyone to challenge me, and I will throw it back to them.
What is so special in UDP and UDP leader Ousainou Darboe that made you to say that UDP is the deal for me out of all these options, all these choices?
You've just, in your introduction, you opened by saying why I did what I did. So I will let you answer it, because you've already gave the preamble of why I did what I did.
There I was specifically talking about Darboe and the documentary. I am now talking about the party that wants to take power.
Lamin,
that's what I'm talking about.
This is very simple. You made a preamble of why Nyang Njie endorsed lawyer Ousainou Darboe, didn't you?
That was in respect of the documentary.
No, not the documentary. You said the documentary prompted my endorsement.
You said you watched the documentary
and
that
it
made you
my endorsement.
Yes.
You've said it.
So is the documentary the special thing?
Well, the documentary is a trigger.
Okay. But what is the special thing?
Well, listen to me. What's the trigger? The trigger is I knew this man as a family man, someone close to me from childhood to date.
Right.
But there are a lot of things I never knew about him because it was never intimated to me when growing up, because there is a lag time between my younger days and his active days, let's say 81 and beyond. I was a little kid. I didn't know what was happening. But having to learn these true testimonies of people that I don't even know, really, it gave me a different orientation. And right now, I told you, and I will say it again, I want this government to change. Why? You've seen the fertilizer corruption that happened. You've seen how corruption has been taken wholesale in our face, and not much is coming out of it. So I am asking, and forget about UDP, I am asking any conscientious Gambian worth their salt, if you believe things are not working, why should that individual be given another chance? And I had this conversation with you earlier. I said, Lamin, I'm asking you a question. You said things will change after the election. Why will we allow ourselves to give someone a second chance when his first chance, he fumbled it? Conscience. So for me is UDP, for someone else is DOI, for someone else is NUP, and for someone else is Mama Kande. So be it.
Let me bring you a little bit back. Now I am talking about policy. I'm talking about ideology. I'm talking about program. Really, what is so special about UDP in terms of policy and program that made you to choose UDP?
Well,
that was the question.
I have seen consistency in what UDP is doing. I have seen a brain trust in what UDP wants to do. I have seen credible and reputable Gambians, internationally and locally, who are bringing their power, their brain trust into this organization, hoping to transform the country. Therefore, I believe they have the wherewithal, I believe they have the brain power, and I believe they have the will and love for country better than what I have seen right now as it relates to the current establishment.
What is your view on the very many Gambians who went to nomination, who said they are interested in this job, only for just 6 people to be accepted?
Well, I think one thing is very clear in the Gambia. We all wanted political plurality, and political plurality is good and healthy for our democracy.
Right.
But the way and manner in which our constitution is today is why we are where we are. What do I mean by that? Our constitution, winner takes all, is creating a class of new Gambians that I call political entrepreneurs. People who want to invest in politics and get a return out of politics.
What do you mean by that?
Simple. We have candidates for quite a while who've been saying that everything that this current administration is doing is wrong. They are going to vie for office because they want to transform and change those things.
Right.
Now, if those very candidates are going back, throwing their weight, if they have weight, behind the president and say that they want to help him continue what he's doing, there are inconsistencies, but not only inconsistencies. They are out there to get a return out of their investment. And what is their investment? Going for the office. And the cheapest way to go is going via independent candidate. It's cheap. So the barrier to entry is limited, which I don't mind. But what we need to do, we are where we are, and this election is very sad that we're going to have a minority elected to represent the majority of Gambians.
That has always been the case.
No, but it's wrong. That's why.
That has always been the case, and I think that is our problem as a country.
It was wrong.
Yes.
And in 2016, we vowed that we wanted to change it. And this current administration really didn't promote that, because nowhere have you seen this current president championing the Constitution. Nowhere did he call parliamentarians and tell them, this is something that's dear to me, I want your support, because it didn't favor him. The status quo as is what favors him. And that's why I call him someone who is not interested in the greater goods interest of the society and taking Gambia where we want it. Because everything that we saw as a problem then is still festering because someone is hitting the brakes or someone is playing political machinations where the invincible hand is not being seen. And that's rather unfortunate, and he has sold Gambia short.
And now, I mean, you talked about those that are endorsing the president are just out there to get return on their investment. But I have seen some of the leaders, and the reason they are.
I never said all. Some.
Okay, you said some,
yes.
But you have those that went there, and the reason that they advanced could made sense. The issue of the way we are thinking in terms of ideology and the ideology of the incumbent match in the area, for example, of reconciliation, of unifying Gambia.
Lamin.
Some will tell you
Lamin.
that.
Has this government to date come up with any policy on reconciliation? Yes or no? Sorry, you should be the one asking questions, but I want to ask you, has this government to date come up with policies. I'm not talking about gestures.
Since
they're different. For the public, let's be fair. But let's be fair. There are difference between a gesture and public policy.
Yes.
President Barrow going to Kanilai was a personal gesture for personal gain. Public policy is the position of the government as it relates to reconciliation. The TRRC...
Yet you have others who see it the other way around.
Well, let us not be stupid. Government is directed and guided by policy. There is no policy document decision of this current government to date.
But there is a law on that.
Where is the law?
The TRRC Act.
But the TRRC is not complete.
But it clearly talks. The law is there.
But the report,
the implementation part.
No, but
you
before you implement,
yes, the law has to be there.
Allow me. Before you implement a law, the report that was asked and commissioned by the state must be submitted. Then the reconciliation process can begin.
But that is no fault of the government, is it?
Did I say fault?
Yes.
You see, you're not here to defend the government.
No,
I never said fault.
I'm
asked
just
a
here
question
to throw
you,
everything at you.
I asked a question
Yes.
to you.
Yes.
Is there any policy directive by the government? Because government is not guided by someone's largesse or someone's discretion.
But the issue,
government is guided by
I am also
policy.
helping you there. Since you said I'm not here to answer, but I'll answer this. I am saying there is a policy, there is a law that guides that process of truth, reconciliation, and reparation.
Is the work finished?
In this country? But that is not the fault of the government.
I am not talking about fault. Lamin, I think you have missed the boat.
Yes.
And you're not hearing me. And please hear me out clearly.
I am. Okay.
I said to you,
yes.
I put it to you, did the government put up any policy with regards to reconciliation?
But that's what I
There
said.
is a law.
Yes,
and
that
the law
is
calls.
policy.
The law called. Law, policy is procedures that will emanate out of a law to execute a certain public function.
Yes.
Law is black and white on book. Policy is something that will now explain what the law wants and how it should be done.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So now, the TRRC law commissioned a report, and this report called for public hearings. That portion of the public hearings are finished. Now the report writing is where they've been. So reconciliation proper officially is yet to begin. So what the president did was his personal volition, not the position of government, because position of government is guided by public policy. So what the president did was self-serving and personal. Going to Kanilai was not a government decision. It was Adama Barrow's decision. And it's good for that to be very clear. And I think people out in the media,
the president's
allow me.
Is the state's
no,
decision,
no.
the government
the
decision?
state's decision is the greater good's decision. His decision for re-election is a personal decision. And I expect people in the media differentiate these two.
Yes.
And you know what? How on earth
Yes.
will any media house not punch on him for not going to the victim center, for not going to the victims, but going to see a perpetrator before a victim? That is shameful, and that is not in the greater good's interest, my brother.
Right. So in terms of the 6 candidates who have passed the test and are now campaigning, yet, I mean, you have some, before that, you have some of the rejected leaders who are complaining, who are bitter, who are aggrieved, and have gone to court. CA Citizens Alliance, for example. Dr. Ismail Sisi, did you see that coming?
It's not about me seeing anything coming, because everything is in black and white. We have an electoral law. We may not be happy with it as it is now, but it has things that you need to satisfy, prerequisites.
Right.
It's given to everybody, and everyone needs to take that and make the most out of it.
Right.
So what I'm seeing and what I am saying here is very simple. If a form is given to you and it has A, B, C, D, and E,
right,
if you fill it adequately and sufficiently, I think there wouldn't be a problem. But this is a democracy, and this is how democracies work. And if you feel aggrieved, you have a remedial course of action, and that's the court. And now the courts will expedite this whole thing and give them their fair hearing. Once that fair hearing is given, maybe based on what they think, they may be back in the race. If not, that's the name of the game. Democracy is a messy dispensation.
The public scrutiny.
That I have a problem.
Why?
A big problem.
Why?
See, the first principle of public scrutiny is, if you want to be a public officer and a public servant, it means you're a property of the state for the time you're serving. And those who live under the tree may not mind the leaves. It is rather unfortunate that we are going to election with a constitution that is not in the best interest of good governance. But albeit that's what we have. So let's learn from this and hope that the bill that's at Parliament and yet to be passed will be amended to make sure that what we have, the websites that the government has, especially that of IEC, they will dump everything about the candidates that have been submitted and prior, because this public scrutiny is nothing but a charade. Why am I calling it a charade? If 20,000 Gambians were to line up there to see the documents, it's their right. But the logistics to allow them to do that based on 5 minutes will not be possible. So therefore, people's rights would have been curtailed by government not being adequately able to give the citizens what is rightfully theirs. But if these documents are dumped on a website, 1 million Gambians can see it anytime they want to. No problem. That's number one. Number two, I would have loved to see the 2016 public declarations of all the candidates so that I will know whether the candidates that are filing in 2021 are being truthful to the public. And I will also see their growth as it relates to their income. And this is our right. And IEC, as a referee, should always make sure that we, the people who are going to choose these people, have adequate information that our choices are going to be based on.
You have, observers look at the election. It's coming and coming fast, and say it is, quickly, not slowly, but it is quickly turning into a two-horse race. Do you see that?
I don't know yet. The political realignment is yet to be completed. There may be a possibility of another grand coalition. I don't know. But there is still time and space. So it's still early to call it game over. But rest be assured, it's going to be a close call come December 5th or 4th.
Who do you see winning?
Well, you don't need to ask me that. I've already declared where I'm going.
You supporting...
No, but allow me.
Okay, you supporting UDP doesn't mean you are saying that they are winning. Or is that what you are saying?
Lamin,
okay.
I expect you,
yes,
as someone
yes,
who has a lot to offer this country.
Yes.
If I am throwing my weight against anybody,
yes,
I don't want them to be losers. And it means I have faith and confidence in them. Hence the reason why I'm with them. So yes, I believe we are going to see a new government in this country, and it's long overdue, for the simple reasons that everything we wanted in 2016 are dreams deferred. Adama Barrow has deferred the dreams of the Gambian. Infrastructure is not what we bargained for, and infrastructure was not what was on the manifesto. Institutional reform, changes of laws, making sure reparations happen, making sure that the brutal brute, Yahya Jammeh and his henchmen, face justice. But what are we seeing? The very man that fought with us now becoming a strange bedfellow with someone who abrogated rights of Gambians for over 22 years. I wonder where his conscience is, and I wonder where his convictions are. And now I have come to the conclusion that he is nothing but a self-serving individual who wants to perpetuate himself at the expense of the greater good. And Jeremy Bentham, a philosopher, that's once said something that I think should be the guiding principle of anyone who wants to serve. The greater good is the primary reason why someone should want to get into public office. The moment you put the greater good last, you are not a public servant, but a self-serving individual.
Have you been doing any work for UDP since you announced that you are backing the party?
Well, directly, no. Truth be told,
Did you
allow me. You ask a question and I will give you. I am not part of any committee, structure, or internal movements of the party. But yes, if I think of something, I will pass it on to them and see how best they can use it. Why not? But I am not involved in anything on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week or ad hoc with the structures of the party at all.
Nyang Njie, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
And I just have one word for Gambia.
Yes.
These elections should not divide us.
Right.
This election should be a time for us to have competing ideologies
Right.
that will propel the country. But at the end of the day, Gambia must win, and we must make sure we remain intact as one nation under God.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
Mr. Njie. That was Nyang Njie, my guest for today. He was my guest today. Thank you for being there. Until tomorrow. Goodbye.